Just over a year ago, I had made a decision to downsize, get rid of 90% of my stuff, and go on a road trip to surrender. And so a young mutual friend decided that Jodi Wellman and I just needed to know each other. And we set up a date to have coffee. And that was a very, very long conversation. And it was my lucky day, absolutely for sure. So I'm thrilled to introduce Jodi to you. Jodi has a book coming out. I'll just tell you briefly about it because I want to give her as much time as I can. Her TEDx talk is called How Death Can Bring You Back to Life. And with over 1.3 million views, it is the 14th most watched TEDx talk released in 2022 out of 15,900. She's a regular contributor to Psychology Today, and her book, You Only Die Once, How to Make It to the End with No Regrets, will be published in May by the incredible Little Brown Company, one of our most prestigious publishers. So go for it, Jodi.
Oh my goodness, what a warm welcome, Diana. And I think everybody here on all of my squares on Zoom can agree that getting to meet Diana a year ago was the highlight for me, not the reverse. So thank you, Diana, for this opportunity to be meeting with you all. I'm excited to be here. I have to tell you, as an interloper, listening in since 7 a.m., 7 a.m. Pacific, listening into having the honor of listening into your conversation has been soul filling, and I think you've just created something really special here. I've learned a lot. I feel closer to you, even though I've never met you, and I am thrilled to be able to, even in some way, contribute to the conversation that we are about to have today. So, allow me to share my screen, and let's get going on our topic of the day, which is how many Mondays do you have left? So, you know, by way of introduction, that I'm Jodi Wellman. What you don't know is that I've done the math, and I believe I have 1,849 Mondays left to live. You are allowed to think that that's weird, but don't worry. We're going to be getting to your turn too. My mission in life is for us to live what I call squander-free lives, because I think we can share this experience that many of us slip into autopilot. Right? We get busy, we get consumed with something else, and we just all of a sudden turn into what I call kind of highly functioning zombies, where we go through the motions of our lives. And I think you, of all people in this fabulous mastery circle, you have a better understanding of tuning into the preciousness of our nature. But we're still all susceptible to taking life for granted. And that is exactly what I'm hoping to just put a little bit of a wrench in our conversation today. So everything I talk about today will be rooted in science, specifically the science of positive psychology. That's where I've done my training and education. I did the Masters of Applied Positive Psychology program at the University of Pennsylvania, where I'm currently an assistant instructor in the program. So I love this stuff. It's the science of what makes life worth living. And only what I do, though, is admittedly I'd add a little bit of a morbid twist to it. So what we're going to talk about in our 45 minutes today, yes, we're going to talk about your death. You all know it. There's no spoiler alert. It's on the horizon. But we're really going to use that in service of talking about your life, this one wild and precious life you're living. And then we're going to figure out, well, so what? What does this conversation do to you at the end of our time today? And it might spur you to make one small decision moving forward. And I think that would be fabulous.
Oh, no, wait. Stop.
Okay. Next up. One thing I want to point out to you, that the little logo, it's the sun from my logo, 4,000 Mondays. It is going to set by the time we get to our last slide in approximately 42 minutes, that sun will have set. And so I hope you don't miss the clever metaphor for the way that our lives work. So as discussed, the Grim Reaper, pretty darn clear. Yep, we know we're totally going to die, not news. But how long do we have on average? This is where I like to get granular. Men on average get 78, women, a few more, thankfully. But we all know that we may get more, we may get less. So this is where I get curious. This is where I want to know, how many Mondays do you think that maybe you have? You could be in the minus category if you're over that age, or you could be in the plus category. So can I ask for you, this will be the hardest part of your day, I hope. Let's do this math. If you identify as male, start with 78. If you identify as female, start with 83. If you identify with neither, average it out at 80, and then minus your age. And then what you're going to do is add in a bonus year, because you get a bonus year just by being a part of this mastery circle. I think that buys you a year of life. And then I want you to multiply that, please, by 52 weeks a year. And then I'd love to hear from a couple of you. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the chat up on my screen so I can see. Do you want to put in the chat maybe a couple numbers? I'd love to hear some numbers. Love to get nosy. How many Mondays? Just for a few of you. And by all means, I mean, please come off mute. I'd rather you come off mute and use and talk rather than put it just in the chat. 194, thank you. Karen, 1040, 52. Good range. This is great. My dad, I have a calculator on my website, and my dad completed it, and he called me and said, "Joe, I'm confused. I think I broke it. Mine came out as minus 235 or something." And it was because it was over at that time, over 78. All right, good range. Can I ask just for a couple of you to share, maybe even just one of you, what does doing that math, does it elicit a feeling? What does it make you think or feel? Somebody?
Rebelliousness.
Oh, that's one of the best answers I've heard. You're gonna what rebel against the system again?
Yeah, don't tell me how much time I've got. I'm going to defy the averages.
I love it. And did you know there is research that does correlate that if you believe you're going to kind of be healthy and vibrant as you age, that you actually will be. And many of you are already nodding because you're thinking, yeah, that's also just on the spiritual realm, not so much even the academically, empirically based realm. Mm. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Thomas, that for you, it feels like rebellious, like, oh, no. I got my own math going on in my life. Yeah. Anybody else feel feelings, startled? Does it feel like a lot to you? Does it feel like a little?
I can go.
Thanks.
It was a moment of, it was very sobering. It was a moment of, I thought I had more Mondays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you sharing that, your candor. Many of us do feel that way. And that's admittedly why I am doing what I'm doing. I aim to rankle in just enough of a dose to do the wake up, not necessarily to tip us into an existential crisis, so to speak. So the way the math works in terms of how much we have to play with is that we roughly get 4,000 Mondays in total. That's why I called my company 4,000 Mondays. And, you know, I think we have so much more control than sometimes we even think about how we want to design those days. And let's assume, you know, the lives we've lived are behind us. It informs our direction forward, but all we have is this day and moving forward, and we get to shape and sculpt. We have that agency to be able to do that. And this is my hope, is just for us to say, look at those little boxes. I don't know how many X's I'm going to be able to get in terms of more weeks, but I'd love to make this next week pretty darn fabulous if I can. And let's define that in a minute. So what we're talking about is this concept called memento mori. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's a Latin phrase and it means remember that we must die. And has anybody here seen Steve Jobs' commencement speech that he did for Stanford? Show of hands, and many of you have. Yes, Diana's even clapping. Woo-hoo. It's so great. I mean, it's watch it before bedtime tonight if you haven't seen it yet. And he refers to death as the best invention ever. I mean, this is the guy that invented the laptop I'm using. Like, he invented some good stuff. And he's the one saying that death is the best invention because he calls it life's change agent, right? And he delivered that Stanford address a year after he had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and thought he was in the clear because he was very, very viscerally woken up. I love the studies. And the psychologists sometimes call it the roar of awakening for people who have had brushes with death, or even the little things. For example, like Christine, I don't know your comment about that's why you're dealing with your toe, but this notion of, wait a sec, like you said something earlier that grabbed me, like wow, it's kind of funny the things you take for granted. Like when you were before pre-toe situation, moving and grooving, post-toe situation or current, it wakes you up. This is exactly what we're doing here in a maybe more existential sense. And what we're really talking about ideally is preventing regrets. I've always been moved by the research that there are two kinds of regrets, right? There are regrets of commission. Okay, so we can regret the stupid things we did. And like, if you're anything like me, there ain't no shortage of things that I regret that I did, wished I hadn't. Okay, well, that's water under the bridge. The regrets, according to psychologists, that eat away at us are the regrets of omission. And we know these puppies. These are the missed opportunities. These are the paths we didn't take, right? The longings we had where we said, oh, I'd love to do that, and we didn't. Or, you know, when you have a dream and you have a big goal or a small goal and you just didn't take action on it, right? Those are what's called missed opportunities. These are the paths not taken, the regrets of omission. And this to me is the crux of so much of our conversation, is if you were to reflect, oh, hypothetically, like right now, like I'm making you do, what would be in your book of coulda, shoulda, wouldas? And I want you to do this right now. Think about this. Maybe take notes, maybe just muse, whatever your style is. But I want you to think, is there something in your life right now that you've always said, or maybe even just recently said, I'd love to do this. I'd love to travel here. I'd love to write that book. I'd love to go and rekindle my relationship with my cousin. But you'd have that pang of regret if you didn't get to do it. Can I have some examples? And you can private message me if you want to, although I think you're all pretty open with each other in this group. No secrets here. What might you regret? And I'm going to go back to our example, because these are actually examples from people I've worked with over the years. You regret not applying for that big job, studying the topic you wanted to in school, literally going blonde. Somebody did say that. What's a big or small example from a couple of you?
I have many, many, many examples.
Okay.
When I first joined the Musicians Union, the guy in the music prep office looked at my big band writing and said, go talk to the, just forgot his name, but the guy at the Tonight Show and tell him I sent you. And I thought, I'm not good enough. And I walked away and said, oh, I could have been writing and mentoring and writing big band. And I always say big band is what I want to do. And many more like that. But anyway, many. Yeah.
Oh, Bonnie, that is, I think most of us feel that example, right? Because we can relate that feeling of fear that prevented you from doing the thing, putting yourself out there. Yep.
Yeah.
Love big band. Okay. Inger?
Yeah. So thank you for calling on me. I just, first of all, I just love the calculating. I'm 87 years old, and I think I'm going to have another 20. So I figured out 1,400, which sounded amazing to me. And I think I forgot that a year, actually.
Yeah, you get the bonus.
I think the regret, when I look back, is when I took child psychology in studying for my degree, and I realized that there was not one single thing that you were not supposed to do that I had actually done, all of them. And it was like, oh my God, how did my kids even survive? You know? So, but I think at my age now, I think I'm just so excited. I'm right now so excited about my project, and I have a project that I am so excited about. 5 years I've been planning on it, and it's going to happen. So I think just, just the excitement of what it is that's left, whether it is what I think, it's less, it's probably not important. It's just how I feel.
Thank you. You're a role model. I love hearing what you said, about how you've got your own formula because you know you're going to exceed the 4,000. And so there's a spirit there, and you're back to your enthusiasm for life. You actually are going to depict for us in a minute when I talk about vitality, how you are consciously widening your life. Thank you. So there are a couple of hands here. Was it Afton? Were you next?
Yes. I am currently working on my mother's memoir, and I am deeply sad that I didn't really be more curious and get to know her incredible life story from herself while she was alive. And I want to encourage all children whose parents are alive to be curious and learn about their lives, because I'm learning the most incredible things, and I don't know how I did not know them, but I didn't. So there's a pain. And the second thing is that's up on this list. There was one man in my life that I should have married, and I didn't.
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And that is a good example that these are the things that cause us to wonder whether it's in the wee hours of the night or not. That could, back to the coulda, shoulda, woulda. What would my life have been like, right? Great lesson about your mom. Michael?
Here. I sort of disagree with the fundamental principle or the position you're offering here with the coulda, woulda, shoulda, which is we don't live life through intention. I think that a lot of things that happen in our lives happen just simply because we put ourselves in a particular position and things happen around us or because of us. I look at the simple thing that makes my life work, which is that I'm a book author, and that happened by complete accident. It happened because I was a member of the Writers Guild and something happened and it was given to me. There's a lot of things that happen in our life because they're given to us, because of context, because of where they are, because of the pattern of our lives and the way we live, and things come to us because of that. The idea that you can engineer your life out of intention, I think, is somehow not workable. You know, you can say, oh, I'm going to live my life this way, or make a happy list, and I'm going to go and, live my happy list until I drop. It's just not workable.
I love your comment. I think we are really aligned philosophically, because I believe
it isn't, like, how are you going to look at the people you know?
Yeah.
Look at the richness you have around you and find things, but not beat yourself up because you haven't got a happy list that is going to make you into Princess Charming.
Yeah, I think we're together. I think I'm not going to advocate for that either. And I think what I would encourage us to do today is think of this as an and, not an or. And my encouragement is this. It's to say, life does happen. Beautiful things happen. We put ourselves on the right path because we've done some, whether it's manifesting or we're lucky or we appreciate serendipity. And I love that. And I also love the idea that if we've always wanted to play the oboe and we haven't gotten around to it, and we're sitting around thinking, oh man, I'd really like to play the oboe, then my encouragement is, let's get you learning how to play the oboe, because that may not happen to you. And so I think it's a little bit of a dance and a harmony that I really think you can appreciate. Christine, go ahead and let's share another before we shift.
Yes. So one thing about that, I think mindset and positive psychology is very, very important. And one of my favorite books is by Jules Verne. It's not 20,000 Leagues. It's Mysterious Island. And it is about people that get basically shipwrecked, hot air balloon wrecked in Civil War times. And they decide right from the start that they are not castaways, that they are colonists. And that shapes the unfolding of the book. It's an amazing book about mindset. So I do think that intention, just like Ingrid and me, I'm going to be dancing. But so I just wanted to bring that up. And then the other thing is I thought your question was about future also. So I went to the toe thing a year ago, and they have ukuleles and dogs in the office. And when you wash your hands, you wash it to happy birthday. So this such a positive things. I bought a ukulele, and it's within weeks after that, because I had played guitar when I was little and all of that. And I started to play a little bit, and then I left it. And so thank you, because in my book is going to be pick up that, I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to bring it over at one point. I'm going to pick up that ukulele and I'm going to start playing it. So thank you.
Christine, so I saw clapping. I think people are with you. We want to hear a little bit of a ditty before that we're done today. This is exactly it. And it's sort of, I hope, simple enough to be able to use. It's that if there's something that you have in some way yearned to do, big, small, or otherwise, and I appreciate the comment, Dr. Thomas, about regretting leaving your daughter with any kind of mess or burden. These are what I call pregrets. And I know it's a corny name, but I love it. And these are not regrets. These are pregrets ahead of time that many of us, we still have a chance to course correct. So if it is that you are, wow, I've always wanted to go to Prague, is it too late? Probably not. What would it take to maybe look at booking a trip to Prague? What would it take to pick up the ukulele again? What would it take to go and fix your affairs so that your kids don't have to worry? Or what would it take? You fill in the blanks. And so this is my encouragement here. Back to a couple motivating lines. It's never too late to be what you might have been. And then because Christine, you mentioned the nautical example with Jules Verne, which I'm totally going to read that. I have to show you this one because I was not going to, but now I will. You must live in the present, launch yourself on every wave. Find your eternity in each moment. Fools stand on their island of opportunities and look toward another land. There is no other land. There is no other life but this. Oh. And so much of what we're talking about here, it is, yes, of course, we would like to live long lives, more Mondays, sure, great. But I think we could probably agree together that the caveat is, but wait, what's the quality of life? And so I look at this as not just living longer, it's living wider and deeper. And the model I've come up with is this idea about we live wider when we infuse our lives with more vitality, right? And so that would range from one end of the spectrum, which is being not so vitally alive. Like what I can do is I can get myself on a real Netflix binge, and that's not really vitally alive. Although it depends what I'm watching, I guess. But all the way over to feeling like you get that feeling, you know, when you're like, I've participated in my life. Gosh darn it. Like I showed up. I did the things. I had the fun. I went to the concert. I went and I tried the new menu, and I went and I played the ukulele, and I found, like Rena, when you talked about like you planned spring break and you went to Idlewild, and you know, this is the experience of infusing more traditional happiness, pleasure. It's more the hedonic side of well-being. Great, good stuff. What is also important, as you all full well know, in this very spiritually infused group, is that it's not just widening our life with all the carnivals and pizza. It's about deepening our life. And this is the construct of meaning, right? And so this is going on the bottom range from feeling super empty, like that sense of hollowness in our lives, all the way up to feeling like, man, I am following my compass of what is important to me. I'm living my values out. I feel connected to something maybe that's bigger than me. I have meaningful relationships, meaningful endeavors, whatever they might be to you. And then this is what this is happening. Now we get the makings of a model, and this is where I get nerdy and excited. And I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because I'd like for us just to talk more practically about it. But this is where people typically fall, right? We could be in the meaningfully bored category, where we are plus on meaning, as you can see, right? We're above the line, but we're lacking on vitality. Most people in my research, it ranges from 39 to 41% of people land in this category. So we feel like we're doing some meaningful things, maybe in work or looking after people, looking after a neighbor or friends. We feel meaning, but we're just thinking, oh man, could I get out there and like live a little bit more? Is there more fun for me? Or should I rekindle an old hobby, right? The opposite end would be vitally empty. And this is where you're like off the spectrum on vitality. Good stuff. Fun is being had. But you're minus on meaning, which just sort of means like you are out having all the fun, but you come home at night and you look around and think, is this all there is? Surely there's more depth to my life. Well, you knew this one was coming on the screen, the dead zone. I mean, this is where you're anywhere negative on meaning, anywhere negative on vitality, and you're feeling a little bit like, whew, I might need a little bit of CPR on some parts of my life, maybe many parts. And then astonishingly alive, well, of course, this is where we're yearning to be in some way, shape, or form. And I want to give you just a really quick caveat, because I chose the words astonishingly alive, and I even put the skull in a party hat. Like, there's an implication here that this needs to be magnanimous, and I don't mean that in the eyes of others, because your version of astonishingly alive is very different than mine, which is very different from someone else's, right? So I was at a workshop recently, and a woman said, well, I'm kind of an introvert, and like my idea of a great Friday night is being home with my family, cozy, popping popcorn, and you know, that doesn't sound very astonishing. And I said, does that bring you joy? Does that make you happy? Does that make you feel like you're? And she said yes, and it was like high five to your version, but which by the way is also my version of a nice quiet Friday night in. But some other people would feel like they're not living astonishingly alive unless they're out and trying something new, or unless they're volunteering at that soup kitchen that night. And it's all relative. So I'm not trying to prescribe something that looks good on social media. I just want to make that super clear, because I feel I mean, I feel a little bit defensive about my word astonishingly alive. So how do we do it? Well, many of this is not a lot of this is not rocket science per se, but what I will say is that I always find the research kind of compelling. That's what we're going to do. Talk a little bit about it. One of the first things that's important to do is to diagnose the dead zones. And well, the positive psychology practitioner in me would be, pretty crappy if I didn't at least say, identify what you're doing in your life that does make you feel alive and do more of that. I mean, that should be the given, but I do need to state it almost as like a professional disclaimer. But many of us, we're walking around and we haven't really fully pinpointed the parts of our lives that maybe have flatlined. And so my encouragement, if you want, you can send me an email. You don't need to give me a whole diatribe. You could just put in the subject line assessment, and I'll send you just a PDF of 68 questions that allow you to kind of check different domains of your life out. Because you might say, oh my goodness, now it's super clear to me that it is my social life that's feeling kind of dead. And if I could just if I could just perk that up a touch, maybe one lunch out a month with some friends and rotate it around, that might make me feel more vitally alive again, for example. So by all means, I'm happy to send that your way if you want it. So diagnosing is key, but as we all know, awareness is the precursor to change. And so sometimes having that kind of, the aha of where we want to spruce life up, that can help. But naturally, I wasn't going to tell you about widening your life and deepening your life without talking about it. And so we all know examples, and I want to hear from you in a minute. Ways we can widen our lives with vitality. Opening up that old hobby. And so absolutely it's picking up the ukulele again. Or maybe it's getting into registering for that 6-week learn how to watercolor, or I guess these are not watercolors, I drew oil painting. Trying new foods or foods you haven't had in a while. I recently realized, this is just a silly example, but this is what life is. It's a bunch of silly things stitched together. I said to my husband, I was like, wait a minute, we haven't had jerk chicken, like the flavor of jerk chicken, in 5 years. How have we been living? So some things fall off the map of our lives, and we might want to just perk things up again in small ways. Obviously, there are fun ways, the classic pina colada, alcoholic or not, going on a picnic, having fun, having some kind of an event, playing some kind of a board game. Again, remember, this is the frothy, fun, lively stuff that just makes us feel like life is being lived with fun. What are some examples? Can I ask a few of you about either what's working for you with vitality and you want to do more of it, or that you're kind of thinking, wait a minute, I want to do this. Remember, this is the vitality widening, not the meaning part just yet, but how do you want to widen your life with vitality?
Flying a kite.
Oh my gosh, what a great example. Wow, love it. Thank you. What else? Love board games. Yes. Bonnie, I see your question in there. I wrote down Mysterious Island that Christine shared as the name of the Jules Verne book. Okay. What are other
starting salsa lessons this Saturday?
No way.
Yeah, and I'm getting 79 in June, so I'm looking forward to it.
Oh my gosh, I so admire you. Imagine. Love that. What's another example?
This is Sam. I want to get out in the nature of Los Angeles. I continually yearn for the house I gave up in Vermont and the green countryside and the mountains. Yeah. And I don't take advantage of the incredible nature we have here. I'm beginning to, but I'm giving up needing to be in this place that I probably will never be in, and really discovering that we have an incredible nature area all around us.
Oh, such a great point. Many of us are in areas where, and I don't know, Diane, if you're feeling this, I haven't asked you this, but a lot of people I've worked with, they find out that they need to move. Often it's for work, but for some reason. And then all of a sudden they do this thing where they go, wait a minute, I've lived here for years, but I never went to that key museum, and I never went to that fabulous park everybody talks about. It's like this is a fabulous metaphor of how we take for granted sometimes our environment, even though we have these inklings and notions and desires that we just don't take action on because we're wired to just go ahead and do the very next task, which, might be answering the next email or doing the next errand. So I love your example of getting out, enjoying nature. And then Patricia.
One more thing I want to say that synchronicity. I was just thinking, Bill and I have planned for years to do certain things. And Bill, before you texted me that or chatted me that, I was thinking exactly that. Well, vitality would be doing these things that Bill and I have planned to do. So I will do it, Bill.
Yeah. I want to share something mischievous that my husband and I do that really gives us a lot of energy. When we go for a walk around the neighborhood, we sneak into building sites when homes have been demolished and there's all the construction, and we just walk through the homes when after the workers go, and we try to imagine what would be the home, and we just I don't know. And then we feel very intimate when I eventually see the home being built. It's like, I know what was in the center of that home, and we walked through there, and we imagined this, and so
right. We would have chosen a different tile, but I know exactly what that looks like. Yeah, I get you. I love that too, Rena.
It gets us to engage in creativity.
Yes, loving creativity. Exactly. Okay, Dr. Thomas.
Will I talk? You just
Oh, Patricia. Oh, sorry, I lost you on the screen. Go for it.
I'm an amateur photographer, and I befriended this wonderful young lady who is a professional photographer. So we go together to exhibitions, and that has been quite inspiring because we're learning from each other, actually. I could not believe that. I bring so much to the plate, and it's so exciting for us to see these exhibitions. And also, I'm with Afton about nature, so I'm planning to hike more. And also, I was waiting for the weather to get better to go kayaking. So I know that Bill and Afton already told me they are into it. So
great. Patricia, your examples are fabulous. And part of the reason is you're making me think about how so many things that may check mark on vitality, they also happen to check mark on meaning, because it sounds like if you go with a friend to a photography exhibit, you are maybe having a meaningful connection with your friend while you're there. Or if you're looking at inspiring photography that really fills you with wonder and awe, that is on the meaning realm also, not just the fun and frothy vitality. So super examples. Thanks, Patricia and Dr. Thomas, before we shift on.
I just asked myself, when did I experience the most unbridled joy, and how long has it been? And that was when I was living off the grid on the very, very top of a mountain in North Carolina. I was waking up when the sun came up and going to sleep when the sun went down because I didn't have a clock. And it was in the wild, and I was just deliriously happy.
Deliriously happy is the descriptor that would be lovely to be able to say. So thank you, because that's a tip too. It's that sometimes we want to reinvent the wheel, and we feel that sense of overwhelm almost with, well, what would I do? What hobby would I pick up? And it's okay. What did you used to like to do? And maybe you just blow the dust off that old train making kit or candle making kit or whatever it is, and give it a try again. And it may not float your boat anymore. That's fine. We evolve, we move on. Maybe you just do need to finally say, fine, I'm going to donate this. But that might help you spark some passion as well. Now let's shift over to meaning. Here's one of my favorite definitions of meaning by, I'm sure you're familiar, some of you at least, with Michael Steger. Meaning provides us with the sense that our lives matter, that they make sense, and that they're more than the sum of our seconds, days, and years, right? We all know that meaning is often forged through fire, right? It's often through the tough stuff that allows us to crystallize and have a better sense with often very poignant moments, loss, struggle, suffering, grief, etc. And so I don't say this just to put a convenient bow on our hard times, to say, oh, don't worry though, it's all going to turn into something good for you later. But we all know, I think that there's an awareness, especially I love talking to you all because I think you have a greater awareness about this than maybe some other groups, that sometimes meaning is, it is through the struggle. And so ways to deepen our life with meaning, I'm going to throw out a few examples. And then again, I'd love to hear from you. We are very familiar with gratitude. You practice it. You have it built into the ritual of this very meeting. And I was so loving hearing you talk about expressions essentially of gratitude and appreciation. It could be nature. A lot of people they come alive in nature in ways that we don't have to explain it. It's just, we know it exists. This one could also double up to this with maybe more of a sense of tapping into your spirituality or religiosity if you want, using your strengths. I don't care what they are, but if you know what you're good at, like maybe you're a really good strategist. How do we get you doing more strategy, right? Or you might know that you're really super creative. How can we get you being more creative on a really regular basis? Or you get the idea. Giving things, giving is quite frankly a fabulously selfish thing to do because you feel great and the recipient feels great. It's win-win. Learning and growing. Hello, look at all you learners and growers on this very session. For many of us, it's oxygen, right? It's like, I work with some people and they for some reason, they're feeling like life isn't as sizzly and it's not as astonishingly alive as it used to be. And then sometimes they diagnose their dead zone. They're like, wait a minute. I was feeling so alive when I was taking that online course and I was out learning that and I was having a learning session with my friends and I haven't done as much lately. I think I need to do more learning. Well, then there's a bingo for you. Expressing gratitude outwardly, not just inwardly, realizing it, and then obviously being social with other people, making those connections. Like Mary, you talked about having that, was it the Platinum Dragon lunch? That's a good example of how that will likely be pretty darn meaningful for you. All right. What are some examples of how ways that you currently experience meaning and want to do more of it, or that you've been always wanting to do? What else?
I'm in several groups with members of Mastery Circle here, each of which we explore deep meaning.
Great. So you are having a regular conversation about it that keeps it alive for you. I love that. Martha put a comment in about I'm a neophile of almost any new experience, anything I've ever tried. Ooh, you're going to make a good segue in a minute, Martha, to the next thing. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do in the interest of time, because I recognize we've got very exactly 8 or 9 minutes left. I'm going to shift us. I think the goal, though, of course, is think about ways you can widen, think about ways you can deepen. Maybe it's a combination, but sometimes we just need to have a little bit of a bullet point list and have that be the thing that we decide to take a little bit of action on. In addition, as we were talking about earlier, to letting fabulous things happen to us in our lives, that medley. Dialing up the novelty. Martha, here's where you shine, I get you. So many of us feel like the days become blurs, right? Like Monday becomes Tuesday and it's indiscernible and it becomes Wednesday. And a lot of it is because we get ourselves into routines. And I don't know if you know, but I tend to get myself into a little bit of a routine where it's like the same cereal every day, the same thing I'm working on, and we just have to spice it up, right? Habits are good because they keep, the trains moving and they help us get things done and we pay our bills on time. I'm not suggesting you blow up every habit in your life just to experience wildness, spontaneity, and newness. But I am suggesting if you kind of find yourself in a rhythm and a rhythm is a tough one because I think sometimes we like a rhythm that works for us. And what if it also meant making one little adjustment to something you do that's kind of on rote? So if you take the same route, if you're walking in your neighborhood, do the thing where you go down that back alley. I mean, as long as it's safe, or go check out that old, like the home that is being torn down again, as long as it's safe, and not totally illegal. Maybe it means shaking up your workout, trying a different routine. Maybe it means if you and your partner kind of do the same thing on a Thursday night for dinner, date night of some sort, jarring it up, just doing one little thing that's different just to alter your existence. It is in this field of not just positive psychology, it's in a lot of ranging areas about motivation, like even self-determination theory about what motivates us to kind of get up and go. Novelty is crucial for the experience of being alive. And sometimes we do just forget to shake it up a bit. So I'm going to encourage you to maybe think about, maybe your one thing you walk away with today is, I think I'm kind of on like robot mode every Saturday and Sunday with my routine. I'm going to shake it up. And maybe the way you shake it up is that you go and you visit that little textile museum you've always been curious about down the street or in your town. And that's one way to, again, widen your life with vitality. Imagine a 2-for-1. So we've talked about diagnosing your dead zones, widening with vitality, deepening with meaning, breaking things up, in terms of novelty. And then the last one, of course, is living a begin with the end in mind kind of life. And that is the good old fashioned idea about thinking about your legacy. And a lot of people get confused about legacy. A lot of groups I talk to, especially if they're in the financial planning world or the investment, they're always thinking about legacy as how much dough you're going to leave your heirs or lack thereof. And of course, I think we know, this is my favorite definition of legacy, that it's a transmission of personal values, right? And so this is that idea about giving something that'll be valued and treasured by those who survive after you're gone. And your legacy is defined by how others approach work and life as a result of having worked with you or been around you. And so a very simple way of handling this, in addition to just, this really is a backwards approach to figuring out your values, of course. But one thing is to think, how do you want to be remembered? How do you want to be described? At one workshop I did with a group, everybody contributed their ideas, and there were a lot of great little examples. We had someone say that they wanted to be remembered as tough but fair. On the bottom, by the way, over on the right, the socks, I want to be remembered as the guy who wears cool socks. I said, to each their own. That's good. So thinking sometimes about how you want to be remembered is a great way to do this. So here we are, our greatest responsibility to be good ancestors. Thank you, Jonah Salk. Here's the question. What decision do you need to make about your life today? My encouragement is that it's one small thing, right? We don't need to blow up our lives. We just maybe want to make one tiny little adjustment. Maybe it's a little thing that creates a ripple effect or the snowball effect, or, you do one thing today and it's a little tiny change. And then all of a sudden, a year from now, our lives feel more vibrant and or meaningful. And so with the elephant in the room, yes, we did absolutely talk about the Grim Reaper. He's kind of hard to miss. He's the framework. This idea of death is the very framework that because we are temporary, we might as well get on with the business of living and not taking it for granted the way we are wired to do. So how do you want to make your lives even a little bit more alive by the end of April? So that's 21 days from now. How do you want to do it? So I'm going to get you to think, and I would love for you to put something in the chat. And maybe it's a commitment you make that you help each other feel accountable to. Maybe the next time you meet, you circle back and you say, tell us about the ukulele, or you say, tell us about, did you do the walk in the woods? I would be remiss, by the way, if I didn't share with you, Diana did mention it. As a heads up, my book, You Only Die Once, is coming out on May 7th. So that is in just under a month. And if you want to stay connected with me, here are ways if you want to use the QR code, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, or in the middle, you can get my Monday blog post, or on Instagram. I'd love to just, stay connected in some way, shape, or form to you all. So I'll leave that there. And I also wanted to share with you my favorite quote, possibly of all time. And by the way, thank you, Sandra. You led the way. Visit state parks in California. Thank you. And can we all just take a second to appreciate Diana's wild and playful look? That is such a great photo. Okay, here is my wrap-up quote. And I still want to see entries in the chat about something that you might want to do, one small thing or big, in order to live wider and deeper. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, wow, what a ride. Oh, so we got one more minute. Can I hear back? Can I hear from one more person, either verbally or in the chat, something that you want to kind of commit to doing as a result of our conversation? This reminder to live, to not wait, not to defer our existence, because we do that. We say we'll do it later. Let's not wait. What are you going to do? Anyone? One more.
Play.
Play the ukulele and bring song and music into my circles. And I'm making my film. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, love it. Writing a musical. Yes. Tap dance. Yes. Can we get any big band in here going on? I know it's a theme in the group. Big band. Let's do it. Love it. Pick your guitar back up. Yes. Play my mother's piano. Oh, develop my cabaret act. Wow, this is a very creatively talented, interested group. Tango with good toes. Yes. I love this. And then cheers to salsa for the rest of you. Voice lessons, While I'm letting your final entries kind of type in, there's no short, I mean, you could keep typing, but I just want to say thank you for allowing me to spend this time with you. We've been talking essentially about time, right? How precious it is, how finite it is. And so to have even just gotten to spend the 45 minutes chatting with you and the hour before getting to experience you, it's been a joy, and I appreciate you. Thank you. And I will let you get back to the wrap up of your meeting.